82% of breaches include data stored in the cloud. Misconfigured cloud is the third most common attack vector behind phishing and compromised credentials. And having migrated to the cloud is the fourth biggest impact to additional costs associated with a breach. So cloud still matters, and we haven't figured it out yet. So we're gonna ask some questions today, see what we can do to get a little bit better. So I'm gonna start with Nick. Cloud's not new. What has changed in the last 5 to 10 years that we're still talking about it as an InfoSec thing?
Well, actually, I actually might say the cloud is kind of new. So AWS launched in about 2010. Google and Azure followed pretty closely after that. The internet came really in form in .com window, right? 1993, we started to really see it. So call it 30 years of the internet, call it 15 years-ish of cloud. And about maybe 6 months ago, I sat in front of a guy named Ashim Shadna. Ashim is a legendary investor. He was an original Bell Labs guy. So he's a networking guy by upbringing. And Ashim put one slide on the wall, and it had 3 circles. Those circles were cloud, network, and security. And he said, even today, those 3 circles haven't created a Venn diagram. He said, we're still really early. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that although we feel like we've been doing this a long time, we're still really early in this.
There's still a lot to be said for the education piece of it when it comes to the cloud and how do I protect the cloud. And the cloud's kind of scary to me. It's not like a hardware that I'm right in there looking at. That's the way I always look at it from my vantage point, especially from my professor, I guess, vantage point is, don't be scared of it. You have to embrace it. You have to understand the foundations of cybersecurity and how to protect. Might not be the same as we had before with belt suspenders and all these other things, but you still need to have the foundation. So I was all in your, space, Nick.
Awesome.
I mean, when I look back and I do a fair bit of auditing of customers and others as well, sometimes I try to find patterns just to triangle them into like some simple, meaningful ways I can wrap my head around all this happening. Most often the case, it's basics, as Deb said. Credential leaks, and one example, one story which has played itself many times as a developer. He or she, for all the good reasons, a service is starting up, just dumps all the config to make sure the service is connecting to prod, not test. And in there's a credential, there's a database URL, it goes into a log file, that log file ends up.
Repeat that, because there are a lot of people here who need to hear.
So,
don't dump your config files with the broad connections.
We're not supposed to do that.
So, but it's some of those basic, I call it hygiene. And if you heard some of the things that Nick said that was reinforced as well, is we've got ourselves into this masterful world of looking at disease. Like, we are fighting disease, we are finding cures for disease, and then we become a master of sickness. And there is this entire world, a few good professors had to drill that into me, that you need to think of turning into an aspect of digital well-being. Like, what is healthy, what is good hygiene, as opposed to just focusing on the things that are going wrong. So it's credential leaks, it is misconfiguration, it is lack of separation of controls. These basics, I would say, if you just eliminate that class of issues in itself, would just get rid of so many other things.
What are you seeing in terms of shifts, either in architecture, approach, use, either good or bad, with this massive shift of people out of the office and connecting from home, Starbucks, the vacation house in Boca Raton, whatever it might be?
So my view is that remote work has been around for years, tens of years, 20s of years. Tens of years, 20s of years. Back when I was growing up, it was Unix terminals, right? So you had a remote, huge Unix server, you had a terminal in a cafe or a university office or what have you, and you still have the same problems you have today as you had back then, right? And so I think some of the trends we're seeing is, again, the move to the cloud. And the cloud, the various CSPs like AWS, Azure, GCP, they built in controls in some of their remote desktop technology to enable us to put those controls in place, that security in place. I think also it comes down to policy, right? I'm a huge governance proponent, so my background is also in governance and policy. And one of my biggest things is, again, with any new technology or any technology that affects both on-site employees as well as remote employees, ensuring that your policies are in place, there's education, those sorts of things.